A few years ago, I began to observe something of my own behavior that made me a bit uncomfortable. That was that during a decent, mediocre Saturday evening, after finishing up the good dinner mama has made, I would lie up, cushioned up in my bed, probably just thinking to myself, and begin to start traversing through a whole lot of emotions. I mean, all of us tend to do that sometimes. Like, there's situations where you just start thinking, and you just start thinking of how to solve these situations. And usually, it just makes you end up feeling overwhelmingly sad. And with like that, I mean, this kind of emotion, it happens to everyone, right? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure you understand this type of feeling. But what is very important for this is that sometimes there's that one particular reason for this kind of indescribable kind of emotion. And what happens is that sometimes it also is that there's this strong need inside of you that tells yourself that you feel sad. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of reasons that people feel sad. But sometimes we're just there, laying on your bed, probably just doing whatever you want, put a blanket over you, don't talk to anybody, you just lay there, scrolling on your phone, you don't feel good, we just keep on doing it. And what happens is that we begin to focus on the smallest things in our lives and make that small thing as our reason to become what we think is going on in our lives. And from time to time, we tend to start to trick our minds to believe that we're sad for no reason. A relationship isn't going how you want it to be. You're scared of losing your job because you're becoming too old. Or even as you're not very certain on how to balance on doing the things that you want to do and doing the things that you wish to do, and with the people you love. But the real question is, how do you get out of it? How do you get out of this emotion, this sad emotion of constantly overthinking and stressing about the things around in our lives? Some people may believe that distractions may actually be the anchor for this abyss, for preventing us to go into this abyss of negative emotions. But rather than calling them distractions, I would say it is also to do something productive. It could just be maybe binge watching some Netflix or some video games, or maybe it can be as simple as going on a long walk, exercising, doing some chores. Whatever it is, it might seem unproductive, but for your life and for your health, for your well-being, whatever it is, it really just helps you to really enjoy that little moments in life when you really, really need it. And no matter what method it is, how we choose to jumpstart us back into the bright side, it is very important for us to do one thing, which I firmly believe. And it's very important to reflect on it. I know reflection is something that we all talk about, but in reality, reflection is so important, and here's why. Reflection allows us to know what things and what aspects in our life are actually important, and what, in reality, aren't as important. And those that aren't as important might actually be the reason why we're sad. And it teaches us a lot. It teaches us to be able to spend time on things of value, and things that genuinely fulfill us. And lastly, it also teaches us to remember to spend time on things that can put us in a learning and strengthening situation. So it's okay. I mean, it's okay to allow ourselves to be hurt sometimes. Because through reflection, we can always be able to have the feeling of relief, the feeling of healing soon after. And it will be better. Life would be better. Life would definitely be better with reflection. But is it always true to say that? Is it always true to say that life will be better on if we have reflection and all that? Well, it might not be. So basically, it certainly might not be. So one of the greatest problems of human beings is that we're too good at keeping on going. And what I mean by that is that we're able to surrender to every single demand of the external world, and also the expectations others bring on us, and also the priorities that other people choose to define for us. And what it makes is that we become so absorbed in what we're doing that we begin to forget, begin to not realize some certain aspects of our lives. Until suddenly one day, you begin to realize that you've got so many obligations, so many worries, so many things together, that you just start not enjoying the things that you do anymore. You aren't capable of running in 100 different directions. And you might not understand what I'm headed, but I promise you, whether or not it's right now or in the future, this problem will come to you. You have so much obligations in your life, yet you would not know how to balance between. And here's why I'm going to talk about it even more. So it's not fun to watch somebody you love, somebody you care, somebody you really, really care for, that maybe it might be your parents, might be a relative of yours, maybe it's you yourself personally. It's not fun to watch them so stressed out that their relationships begin to fall apart. It's not fun to watch mom or dad being so busy and they don't have time to come home that early, and dinner is just all about some small conversations and even some arguments. It's not fun to be able to not be able to do a lot of stuff. For example, you have to max out every single dollar that you have, and you have to hit on huge breaks to tell yourself to slow down sometimes. It's just not fun. And it's very important for us, since when there's crisis, we always need some room for ourselves. And if we don't have that, it becomes super problematic. And that is why we need to keep some margins in our lives. And we need to keep some breathing room, some breathing space, if we really do need it. So that when we do reach the limit, we're able to just stop and breathe. So for example, I have this sheet of paper right here. Okay, so it's just an ordinary sheet of paper. I mean, it can be any size, whatever content can be on it. It could be a political paragraphs, random music manuscripts, random love hearts I've drawn in BC class. But whatever is common is that there's always going to be margins no matter what paper it is. So what's important is that these margins are super important. It separates between the space, between the contents of the paper, and between the edges of the paper. And what's going on is that if we have margins in our lives, we're able to fill it out with whatever we want. We're able to decorate it with our ideas, we decorate and put things together, connect things together, and whatever we want with it. It's always good to have a freedom to have margins, to stylize. It's always great to have some extra margins to fill it in your life. So you'll be able to fill out with some exciting and fulfilling things with consistency that come around anytime. And you know what? Our life also needs these margins as well. However, we tend to pile things up in our lives, and we start to lose these margins. We begin to focus on how close we are to the edges of the paper, rather than what is on there, what we have molded onto the sheet. And then we start in our lives, and the space between our current events will become too tight, and we begin to have a narrowed focus. We begin to live a life at the margin. An example of this is this. You know what? As long as I'm standing 1 to 2 meters away from the platform, it's okay. But as I move closer, and closer, I begin to lose my focus. I begin to get distracted. I begin to start focusing on what is ahead of me and not the bigger picture. And that's important, since sometimes we'll get stressed because of this. We begin to focus on the things that we believe is important right now, but not be focused on the bigger picture. We begin to be focused so much that we're focused in specific areas that in the future we may think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And then we begin to regret, which is, for me at least, is my biggest fear. We become so focused that we begin to neglect the things that are very important. And when it comes, we will believe that there can't be any errors in our plans. Things have to go the way it is. And when there are errors, there's going to be a huge emotional hit. You might have a breakdown, and yeah, it's just going to restart, and then it's just going to have the process again if we continue living by the margin. And then what happens is we'll begin to quit enjoying life. Everyone needs to keep margins in their lives. Keeping margins is when you're able to sit around at the dinner table with your family and just talk. Keeping margins is that you're able to not need to speed through every red light you see because you go to places earlier. Keeping margins is that you're able to take a break and be able to enjoy yourself that time and put everything else aside. Keeping margins is that you have money at the end of the month. I mean, you don't have to spend it, but it's just there, and it's good. Keeping margins is when you're able to do the things that you enjoy because you want to, because you wish to, rather than because everyone else is doing it. And about that, in our attempts to make as much progress as possible, we begin to start to trade it with our happiness, with our prosperity, with other peaceful moments that we have. And life is better when kept on the margin, I promise. So don't get to a point in your life that you redline your relationship, your financial situation, or anything else in this way. Don't make your schedule so packed up that you can't add any more. Since in the process of doing so, you'll begin to lose control of your life. Trust me. Make life easier. You don't have to do so much obligations sometimes. Be able to see the places that you have breathing space for. And whatever is important is that you should always remember that you're not sad for any reason. Remember to keep your life at a margin. Thank you.